Welcome to the Week 4 edition of the Fantasy Football Goon podcast. I'm your host, the Goon, Joe Mandel, and with me is Steve Nobilski, as we call Knobs. So, Steve, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, man. How's it going this week?
Oh, I'm ready for some football tomorrow. That's all I can tell you right now.
Yeah.
This week cannot go by fast enough.
Yeah, it's an interesting week with buys starting for sure. So
Steve's mentioned buys, and that's the topic of our podcast today. We're calling this week's podcast the Bye Week Blues. As many of you know, bye week started this week with Tennessee and New England both being on a bye. So it means there's no Tom Brady, there's no Gronk, no Marcus Mariota, Kendall Wright, Delaney Walker. So some people need some help at tight end this week, even quarterback. So we're here to tell you guys, what to do and how to go about, in many cases, could possibly be saving your season if you're at 0-3 right now.
Yeah.
Steve's not quite there. He's at 1-2, but
1-2. Bad luck at receiver still.
Well, at least you're not starting Andre this week.
Yeah, no, he might be done for the year.
Well, depending on what he does this week, he could be in Drop City.
He better put up some crazy numbers this week.
On your bench.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be better than no numbers at all.
Yeah, if he doesn't put anything up, he's gone. If he puts up good numbers, maybe he stays for a while longer.
Yeah, I told everybody in the podcast earlier this week in my start him and sit him to bench him. So
yeah, it's a good call.
Even against Jacksonville, I don't care.
I mean, he's got a good matchup against Jacksonville. Just that offense in general in Indianapolis has looked generally not great right now. And I mean, Andre in particular, he's looking old. Yeah. I'll agree with what you said before. He's definitely looking old. I think he's about done.
No doubt about that, man. But getting back to the bye week stuff, obviously this week there's New England and Tennessee are on a bye.
Yeah, losing some big names
so
there.
We're losing the big Tom Brady, Gronk, Julian Edelman, a lot of guys that are probably being started every week.
Yeah.
I know I, for one, have Tom Brady in 2 of my leagues, so I had to fill the void. I had Carson Palmer in both of those leagues, but I'm selling high. I traded him in both of those leagues.
Yeah.
So kind of left me to fill the bye week blues, as it be. So let's just go with quarterback guys that could fill the bye week need in 10 or 12 team leagues. So the name that comes to the top of my head, first of all, is Andy Dalton. Gets a great matchup
for sure
against Kansas City. You get Tyrod Taylor. It's a good matchup. God, who's Buffalo playing this week? We were just talking about this. We were just talking about this like 2 minutes ago. I can't remember anything anymore.
Yeah, regardless. I mean, I would almost go and say Nick Foles doesn't have a bad matchup this week with St. Louis. They're playing Arizona, yeah, but I mean, I think he's been doing fairly well this year. Is a bye week fill-in.
I mean, I guess you could do worse as a bye week fill-in, but I think it's really hard to start Nick Foles against a really good Arizona defense. I don't know. You probably don't agree, but that's okay. That's what we're here to talk about, stuff. And going back to who Buffalo's playing the Giants, by the way.
Yeah.
So Tyrod Taylor's got a great matchup there.
It's a great matchup for him.
Steve picked up Tyrod Taylor this week, guys.
Yeah, I did. I couldn't stand to see Colin Kaepernick on my bench any longer.
I mean,
which he's probably a good one to drop if.
Yeah, I wouldn't own Colin Kaepernick right now unless you're in a 12 team or more.
Do you get points for throwing touchdowns to the defense?
If you get extra points for throwing pick sixes, then you should have Colin Kaepernick on your team. Otherwise, no. But getting back to bye weeks, we'd mentioned, where did I start? Andy Dalton, T.Y. Hilton. He was talking a little about Nick Foles. Another guy I'm really loving this week is Derek Carr. Got a great matchup against the Bears. Pretty much anyone that plays the Bears that can throw the ball is a good start. So if you can get any of those guys to fill the bye week blues, definitely go with them. So, I mean, there's other guys out there like a Ryan Mallett or Kirk Cousins or Blake Bortles, but I don't trust them as much as the guys we mentioned previously. I mean, only if you're really desperate.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you're in a 12-team league or something, and you're a little short on names, then that's the way to go. But otherwise. I don't see any reason you'd have to dig that deep.
No, not at all. And, quarterback's pretty deep. Obviously, that's why there's so many guys that are still available. But moving on to receiver, receiver's deep, but there's a couple big names off the board, like Julian Edelman and like Kendall Wright.
Yeah, they're maybe not your number one, but you're gonna be losing a good amount of points there. So you want to make sure you're filling it in with someone who's gonna get you probably not that equivalent amount, but you're gonna get you want something close, or as close as you can get. Anything's better than zero, pretty much.
Oh, no doubt, man. There's nothing worse than having your fantasy football team, at least one player or two or three putting up a goose egg.
Yeah.
Like when you log on to look, you just feel like you're going to barf. I guess I'm the only one. No. But speaking of receivers, some guys that people can pick up to fill in for an Edelman or a Kendall Wright, or even if you're starting like a pass-catching running back, like a Deion Lewis, or I know he's a running back, but to me in my head I kind of have him as a receiver. A lot of people are using him as a flex, so he kind of uses up both of those roles. But guys you can play this week that are possibly available, got Michael Crabtree out there.
He's got a great matchup.
He's got a great matchup against the Bears. The first week of the season he was really involved. Last week he was involved, but he didn't have as much yardage and catches. But he's getting the targets, which is encouraging. Derek Carr's looking his way. And, with teams paying attention to Amari Cooper, I expect Crabtree to get a lot of single coverage.
Well, and this week in particular also against the Bears, you're looking at a secondary that's not very good. They just fall apart. So the odds of him, he's getting the targets like you said, the odds of him turning those targets into catches is much greater this week.
Oh, sure. No doubt, man. Another guy that's at least available in every league that I play in right now is Percy Harvin.
Yeah.
Percy's got a good matchup against the New York Giants. And we just heard, this is hot news right here, Sammy Watkins is not playing tomorrow. So that makes Percy the number one receiver and Carlos Williams the number one running back. So both those guys should have good games.
Yeah, there's no reason to not start Percy Harvin really against the Giants, especially with Sammy Watkins out.
Oh, sure, man. And another guy that's available in a handful of leagues that I'm in right now. Actually, he's available in every league now that I look at it. Could be a good guy to plug in for someone who's not playing is Torrey Smith. He's got the Green Bay secondary. I know we're not high on Colin Kaepernick, but for even if you're playing like in a weekly, in a money, like a FanDuel or DraftKings, or just even a regular league and you're just really desperate, Torrey Smith could be a guy that could get you some good value because he's very inconsistent week in and week out, but some weeks he's huge. And against a secondary like Green Bay's, if there was a team he was going to do it against, I have no problem guessing it being Green Bay.
Yeah, I think he's probably worth the risk this week, even though Colin Kaepernick's not that great. But he's not looking that great right now.
It's worth noting, though, Kaepernick, I'm pretty sure, is undefeated against the Packers. He's 3-0 in his career. But I'd expect that to change really quick.
3 pick sixes later, and that's a different story. But
yeah, and it's not a whole lot of buys. This week, you only have 2 teams. It doubles next week, going into week 5 with. Next week, you have Carolina, Miami, Minnesota, and the Jets all on buys.
Yeah.
So that makes it a big defensive week. A lot of big defenses out. You were mentioning something about defenses earlier to me, Steve.
Yeah, is the big question that comes up every season, right?
Right.
My defense is on bye this week. Should I drop someone to pick up a different defense? Is it worth that? I don't know. I don't know about you. I kind of go back and forth. I'm not entirely convinced one way or the other on that.
Yeah, I say it year after year, and if I don't think it's worth dropping someone on your squad just to win 1 week.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I think it's worth just take the loss And
well, you're not even guaranteed to be taking a loss.
no, I mean if everyone else does well, but I'm just saying if you're down 10 points, then the defense could have won you the game.
Right.
When it comes down to it. But the thing is what are you actually going to drop? Who are you dropping off your squad in order to pick that defense up? Because if you're dropping your primary defense, you're dropping someone like the Rams defense, then
I'm going to take them off waivers next week.
Yeah, exactly. Then they're not going to be there when you come back looking for them. So, I mean, and if you're going to drop someone, a backup receiver or a running back, I mean, that's definitely not worth the points in my mind.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I mean, only if you have someone that's terrible like you just did. Moments before we started the podcast, Steve dropped Vernon Davis and picked up Percy Harvin. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, none. Well, he looked good in the in the draft in like the 11th or 12th round. So,
but just because you dropped him now, he's going to go off this week against Green Bay.
Yeah, he will.
But you wouldn't be starting him anyway. So
no, not over Jason Witten.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely not.
You'd have to be on drugs to do that. So we went over the defense and add and drop question with bye weeks. Personally, we're not big fans unless it's someone who stinks or is out for the year. Moving on to guys for this week, week 4, we talked about quarterbacks. We talked about receivers. There's only 2 tight ends this week that are playing. One of them is the biggest in football, and Gronk.
Yeah.
And the other is Delaney Walker because they're both on byes. Who are some guys that you're kind of eyeing off of waivers, Steve, that could maybe fill that void they're easily available?
I haven't really been looking at tight ends much because, I mean, really once you get past that higher tier of the Gronk and that,
sure,
you're not going to get much value of one guy over another. I mean, depending on the team.
Yeah, I mean it's depending. A guy that I'm high on this week. It's a high risk play, but he's a guy that could go off.
Mm-hmm.
I love Coby Fleener against Jacksonville. Dwayne Allen doesn't look like he's playing, at least currently.
Yeah,
that could change in the next 12 hours, but it doesn't look like he's playing. He's still hurt. Coby Fleener hasn't had a great start of the season, but again, I love tight ends against the Jacksonville defense just because they're not very good. I expect he could be someone that you could pick up and start in most leagues. He's available in every league I'm in right now.
Yeah, he's readily available. And I mean, you're just looking at someone to fill in for 1 week to put some points on the board. So,
yeah.
I mean, really what you got to ask yourself is who can you drop for him, and is it worth that?
Well,
cost,
sure.
Right.
I mean, if you have an empty spot for some reason or someone who's terrible like Andre Johnson.
Yeah.
Which you may want to wait until after the Jacksonville game. But,
Also, though, I don't know that I would judge. I don't know that I can judge Andre's
season off of Jacksonville.
Yeah, off of a Jacksonville game.
That's true.
I mean, on the same token, it's like if he were to play the Bears or play the Bucks or something. I mean,
yeah,
odds are you're looking at a good game for him. If he has a bad game, then I mean, I think that's the bigger tell of now's the time. Just go ahead and ditch him.
Yeah, one more tight end that could fill in for you if you have a spot for him. I think Larry Donnell looks like he's available in 2 out of my 3 leagues. He's available. The Giants have a pretty good matchup with Buffalo.
Yeah, they do.
Obviously, the Buffalo defense is good, but I mean they're going to be pretty busy dealing with Odell Beckham Jr. So
they will.
I imagine Donnell's going to get some looks in this game.
He definitely is going to get some looks, and I mean Eli Manning's a decent quarterback, decent enough. Not
keyword decent.
Decent. He's not worth a first start, but as a bye week backup, he's probably a solid choice.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, you're looking at they're definitely going to air that ball out when they can.
Oh, sure.
And they're going to give Beckham the looks in that too.
Oh, definitely. So. I like Ruben Randall in that game too.
Yeah, for sure.
At least for one more week until the imaginary Victor Cruz comes back.
We hope.
Hopefully he's not imaginary then. So on the running backs, I know we there's not a whole lot of buys this week. You got New England, Tennessee, so Deion Lewis, LeGarrette Blount, Bishop Sankey are really the only three guys.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be starting Sankey anyway, most likely.
No.
Deion Lewis is getting started, as is Blount. I'm sure you have enough on your bench. Otherwise, running backs. There's some guys that a guy I'm really high on. He's on the sleeper section of the website right now. Is Lance Dunbar in Dallas. They're taking on New Orleans this week. I'm imagining Dunbar catching a lot of passes out of the backfield, kind of in that Shane Vereen New England role he was in a few years ago.
Yeah.
So he could be a nice plug-in if he really needs somebody. I like Lance Dunbar a lot.
Yeah, I think he'll do really well against New Orleans also. I mean, they're definitely another defense that isn't looking fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an understatement, but I would agree with you there. And then I'm going to go with one more guy that's available probably in every single league that could help you fill a void at running back. Bilal Powell for the Jets. He's taking on Miami. They're playing in London tomorrow. Chris Ivory's a little banged up. He's probable for the game, but he was active last week and he didn't play a single down. He stayed on the sidelines in his pads the whole game, put up a goose egg. So I started him last week. That was great on my part.
Well, it's hard to predict a goose egg sometimes.
Yeah, well, especially when a guy's active but he doesn't play at all.
Exactly.
I'm hoping Chris Ivory plays this week, but he's not on my bench. He's not on my starting lineup. We're kind of getting towards the end of different positions for bye weeks. Defenses, obviously, of New England and Tennessee on bye. No one has the Tennessee defense starting. I'm pretty sure they shouldn't. If you do, drop them for anyone else. Drop them for Steve Buscemi, okay? But if you have New England and you're looking for other defenses that you could possibly get on a fly, a team that's sticking out to me, which, if you're really desperate, they have a good matchup. The Oakland Raiders are taking on the Chicago Bears. Jimmy Clausen's still the quarterback for this week. I think the computer froze. No, it didn't. It's going. Jimmy Clausen's still the quarterback this week. Any defense going against Clausen, for as clueless as he looked last week, I'm sold.
Yeah.
So I like Oakland if you need somebody real bad. Minnesota, no, they have Denver. I like the Minnesota defense, but I don't like them against Denver this week. What was that?
It wants to do updates. That's why it's slow.
The computer's trying to install updates as we're recording the podcast.
Of course.
Don't mind that.
The wonder of Windows 10.
And then this team's, for the teams that are available, I mean, it would probably be Oakland. And after last week's terrible performance, the Kansas City Chiefs are probably available now. They're taking on the Bengals, but I still expect Andy Dalton to torch them.
Yeah.
So really, out of those teams that are available, I think Oakland's really the only one that I would be confident starting.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't be super confident, but I would be more so than with the rest.
Yeah, you're not looking at some great defensive matchups once yours are on bye. Another good reason not to drop anyone for the defense. I mean,
back to what we were talking about earlier, folks. Don't drop unless you really need to.
I think the same goes for a kicker, I mean, just...
Yeah, I wasn't even going to go over kickers because...
It's more just miss the 8-10 points for the
Unless you're Josh Scobie, who got cut by the Steelers today.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, I mean, if you lose a game as bad as he did on Thursday, you should be cut. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he looked terrible.
The beyond looking terrible, Mike Tomlin looked like he might murder him. He's going to run him over during the game. Although I'd pay to see that. That'd be hilarious. That Mike Tomlin sideline face. Like, you know the face I'm talking about.
I know the face, yeah.
But in case anyone wants to know, if you need a kicker, the Steelers cut Josh Scobie and they signed Chris Boswell. So if you want the Steelers kicker and you really want him, go get Chris Boswell. But we don't advise it.
Yeah, I would definitely wait and see how that pans out before you jump on the Boswell.
Everybody in my 3 leagues should pick up Chris Boswell and drop someone that's better on their team. So we kind of worked our way through kind of like the bye week solutions, if you will. Now we're kind of working our way to, the games for tomorrow. Some big names that are out of the lineup. LaShawn McCoy is out. Sammy Watkins is out. And then two big names that were questionable all week are probable. You have Chris Ivory and Jonathan Stewart, both probable for tomorrow. So those guys should be good to roll, those two. And before we close it out, we wanted to kind of go over some Twitter questions. We got a lot of questions this week, and we figured we would answer them.
All right.
You ready for this, Steve?
Let's
do it, man. So the first question comes from @RecklessTone. The question is Golden Tate, Pierre Garçon, or Anquan Bolden at a flex this week?
Garçon, hands down.
Yeah, I
no
agree.
question there.
I would agree. I gave him the same answer. Golden Tate, I would normally say Golden Tate, but he's got Seattle this week. I don't love the matchup by any means.
Exactly. I mean, Seattle's they're sitting on a great defense, and you don't want to start. Given the option, you're not going to start someone against that defense.
No way, not at all. And then obviously Anquan Bolden for me, he's been so inconsistent. I don't want to start him at all right now. Yeah, he's been
very bad. I picked him up again in the draft late round, and he's looking at leaving the team pretty soon here.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Why? Please elaborate.
Well, I mean, if you look at his numbers, he's just terrible.
I love that analysis.
There's no other way to put that. He's bad.
And obviously the reason we like Garçon, he's clearly the number one guy in Washington right now. Deshaun Jackson's out, and they have a good matchup against Philadelphia. So
yeah,
I'm down.
Yeah, he has. I think of the three, the biggest point is he has the most upside this week.
Most upside, probably most targets.
Yeah.
So anytime you have a question, that's what we go by. Targets, potential, big winner.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Moving on to our next Twitter. This one's about trade advice. So this tweet comes to us from @Kev4D. Trade advice. 10-team PPR. I was offered Adrian Peterson, James Jones, and Jeremy Maclin for Randall Cobb, Victor Cruz, and T.Y. Hilton. Thoughts?
Don't do it, man.
Don't do it is right.
Don't do it.
While AP seems like an upgrade at running back, which it would be, we would rather have Cobb and T.Y. Hilton at this point.
For sure.
Most definitely. And then Cruz has some good upside. He's not back this week. He might be back next. We're kind of curious to see, how he works in that offense. But the way Cobb has been playing, and I expect the Colts to get it together eventually.
Yeah.
T.Y. Hilton will benefit.
And Cobb's pretty much the number one guy with
Nelson out.
Yeah, with Jordy Nelson not playing.
Yeah.
He's basically the guy in Green Bay. So
no doubt.
I mean, you're looking at a lot of targets, a lot of touchdowns, a lot of yards.
Sure.
He's going to get you a lot of points. Once Indianapolis figures their offense out, T.Y. Hilton's pretty much the same situation,
sure.
Right? So, I mean, really, all you would be getting would be AP in that situation.
Yeah, because Macklin had a good game this week, but
yeah, he's up and down though.
And they finally scored a touchdown with a receiver though.
It's about time.
I think I was 12 years old last time that they scored with a receiver. Somewhere over to Dwayne Bowe.
Yeah.
So we got one more Twitter question. This comes to us from Rosox1970. The question is about quarterbacks available on waivers. The question is Carr, Fitz, Bortles, Cousins, Mallett, or Foles on waivers for this week. Who's the best available? I can speak for myself first in Derek Carr, who has a great matchup against the Bears. I expect him to be better than all the other quarterbacks listed here. And I expect him to torch Chicago, including he will include Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper in that. So I'm going with Derek Carr. Steve?
I'd probably say Carr also. I mean, did it say if that was a a weekly starter or if this is a bye week fill-in.
He didn't say specifically, but it was kind of, I don't know. I read it as it was a replacement because I believe, if I look back at my tweets from Rosox 1970, I believe he lost Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay.
So maybe this is a weekly guy going forward, but I still think the answer is Carr, even if it's a weekly guy.
I mean, I would say Carr edges everyone else out. If you can't get Carr, next on my list probably would be Foles, because I think he's got a lot of potential there.
He's got potential. See, you love Nick Foles, dude. I don't love him as much as you do. But if I had to put him in order, I'd say Carr. And, it's only been 2 weeks, so we don't have much to look at. But I do like the way Ryan Mallett has been playing for the Texans.
Yeah, he looks great. But, again, it's only been 2 weeks, so I think you got to give him a little more time.
That's why I say go with Carr, because I think he's a great talent. He's got a lot of good talent. He's got good talent around him.
Yeah.
And the kid's got an arm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Derek Carr all the way. That's this week's edition of the Fantasy Football Goon podcast. Good luck in your Week 4 matchups. And, hit us up with any more questions, concerns, feedback. We love hearing from you guys. And we love getting tweets, emails, you name it. So, again, good luck this week. I'm Joe Mandel, the Goon. Here with me is Steve Nobilski, Knobs. And we'll see you on the flip side.